1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello. Welcome to the program. It's the 5th of December. It's a rainy, warm Thursday, heading into a very cold, I guess, weekend. Welcome to December in the era of climate change. Well, I want to first apologize, I think. A semi-quasi iffy kind of apology to an emailer from a few days ago who drew my attention to a billboard for the Richard Mellon Scaife publication. Every time I say Scaife, oh, there really was something. Richard Mellon Scaife newspaper, the Tribune Review. And he didn't quite remember what the billboard said, but and then I was thinking of another billboard that I saw the billboard that he was referencing yesterday. And I did write it down. It's a very simple billboard, and I think I've heard some radio spots using this same line. And I think the emailer was correct. It's a very... It can be read a number of ways, which is, I'm sure, why they love it. It's punster's heaven. It says, it's for the Tribune Review, and it says, "We do things right." Period. And then here. Period. So, it's the dog whistle thing to the right-wingers. We do things right. You want to get this paper. To someone who's not paying a lot of attention, we do things right means, we got a great paper here. The third meaning, of course, is the we do things right here, meaning we're your local paper, we're da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But quite clearly, it is a play on the word right, which is the concern that an awful lot of people have about picking it up. What I had said was that because of my job, I feel like I need to pick it up on occasion. I need to see, because they've got, actually, I think, a fuller staff of reporters than the Post-Gazette now has. And they're covering stuff. And often, for people who do look at both papers, you will see that if you don't read the Tribune Review, you are missing information. Because the Post-Gazette often does not. It's strange how these two papers covering the same city do not always choose to cover the same things. And often, I tend to agree with the Tribune Review's news judgment. So I find myself often more interested in the stories that they have. And so what I was trying to say is that in their journalistic repertorial function, they do things right. And I mean by they do a good job. on their editorial page, in their opinion section, I mean, really, as I said, I'm afraid to. I've peeked at it. It's like the Wall Street Journal editorial page. I mean, really, I said I'm afraid. I'm afraid of it. It's a trip to the other parallel universe. But anyway, I wanted to say I think it's actually a very clever ad campaign. I don't know if it's helpful to get people like you to pick up their paper, because they're playing on the very thing that concerns you, namely that their editors and their owners' right-wing sensibility might infect their journalism. David D'Angelo of Two Political Junkies did email me and said that while he understands what I'm saying about some good reporting in the paper, he says he thinks that the opinion gets a little bit sometimes polluting into the journalism. In that, for instance, they'll mention a right-wing think tank and fail to acknowledge that their owner and publisher might sit on its board, or fail to acknowledge that it's a right-wing think tank, whatever. But, I mean, I don't need that kind of thing. Whatever. I just wanted to say that is what the emailer saw. We do things right here. I think that's I don't know what ad agency came up with it, but it seems like a pretty clever little bit. All right. Tom Sokolowski's not here today because he was here yesterday, right? And he had some personal issues to deal with today. Tomorrow, just so you know, I think we're on schedule with Chris Potter stopping in. I have come across some what I consider unpleasant news about Google. I'm talking about the corporate entity that is Google. I live in the East End, so when I used to see the Nabisco sign, I now see Google. And I'm happy that it's there because I think that in many ways it has helped to spur the sort of revitalization, I guess, of Pittsburgh's tech sector, and because it employs a lot of young people, it's retaining those CMU nerds that graduate and used to head off to Silicon Valley. They're staying here. All those apartment complexes going up in East Liberty. And I mean, in my neighborhood, all of a sudden, streets that never had cars on them are filled with cars. Those are, I imagine, those are the Google guys parking and then walking a few. They don't want to pay for parking, so they're parking up neighborhoods that didn't used to have cars on them, which, of course, to the residents that are there now is not happy news. But there's a certain, vitality afoot in Google's territory in Pittsburgh. So I've always sort of looked at their colorful little silly Google sign and thought, geez, they chose us. That's cool. And then I come across this kind of stuff. And it's just so I just don't feel as good about them now. And I'm sure there's plenty of other reasons not to. Also, the very fact that they are so much a part of our lives, so much so that, they enter our vocabulary as a verb, as a noun, as everything. I mean, how can you get through a day without somebody saying Google it, or at least thinking to yourself, I'll Google it? So I came upon this news. It was in the New York Times, and it disturbed me. And it disturbs me because it fits into, my terrifying vision of the future. It says this: over the last half year, Google has quietly been acquiring technology companies, other technology companies, in fact, quite a few of them, in an effort to create a new generation of robots. So Google is not talking about specifically what its intent is, but something is clearly afoot, and the something looks pretty big because of the scale of the investment. So, as the Times piece points out, because of what has been perceived as the scale of this Google quiet maneuver, it apparently is quite clear that they're not after some kind of cute science project. No, it looks like this is not something for us. It's not a consumer-oriented move they're making. It is, according to people trying to ascertain exactly what's up at Google, they say the company's expected target is manufacturing, and specifically electronics manufacturing, which up until now has relied a great deal on human labor. People is in good jobs, really good jobs. People. So, it looks like, and here's what the scuttlebutt is that Google is attempting to figure out how to move electronics. I mean, of course this is a given. Assembly to robotic. And also positioning itself to perhaps take on Amazon.com. A research scientist at MIT looking at this, he runs the Center for Digital Business. He says the opportunity here is massive. And then he says this, like he can't believe it. There are still people who walk around in factories and pick things up in distribution centers, and there's still people in the back rooms of grocery stores. What's with that? This blows my mind. So all these brilliant guys at MIT and at Google are figuring out how to take the few jobs that poor people have and destroy them. Okay, so what they're saying is there'll be nobody stocking shelves in 4 years. There'll be nobody in those massive distribution centers. There'll be nobody in electronics factories. No humans. This will be just robotics. And so Google positioning itself, apparently, to get in. And I don't know. The story starts like this. In an out-of-the-way Google office, 2 life-size, humanized robots hang suspended in a corner. So, again, I just ask you, the Google Robotics group is located out at their Palo Alto, California headquarters. But given their presence here in Pittsburgh and CMU, I can see where some of this might be happening here. Hello.
Hello, Lynn. I was just listening to you talking about the robots and going into distribution centers and putting all these people out of work. And let's follow that along to the idea that all these people out of work won't be able to buy the products that the robots are picking off the shelves to send to stores.
Yes.
So everybody loses.
Well, why can't these geniuses see that?
Because they live in their own world. I've really come to believe that most people anymore are living in their own world. Their concept of the world is the only one that exists. And all they see is like, well, we can expand our business and our company and, go from there. And that's the only thing that counts.
Well, what they're they're seeing what they perceive as the inevitability. Somebody's going to create these robots and move in here because obviously any retailer in their right mind would rather have a machine than a human being, right? Ultimately cheaper and none of the benefits and blah, 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 blah. But why don't they ever think of the human cost? What is with these people?
Well, my wife has worked at a high-tech firm that makes stuff that goes at these distribution centers, okay, like Walmart and stuff like that. And their marketing department is constantly pushing the engineers for new products. Improve this. This is the fifth edition of this product, and and these products can cost. I mean, to install these systems can cost like upwards of $1 million. And what they're running up against is, the salesmen are going out and saying, "Hey, here's our latest edition," and they're saying, "Wait, but the edition we bought 10 years ago is working terrific. Why do we want to spend $1 million to upgrade it to increase our efficiency by 1%?"
Well, only if the scale they're operating on, some people, you can see where, somebody might get, elbowed out because some other group says, "Hey, I'm going with the more efficient, and I'm gonna start knocking these guys who aren't keeping up out."
Well, new ones, yeah, but the older ones and the salesmen and the marketing, they don't seem to understand. It's actually some companies have stuff that's 12 years old, but it's working terrific, and they sit down and they say there's not a significant enough improvement.
Okay, well then they're gonna have to figure out how to get some obsolescence into their wonderful electronics.
It is they quit repairing them. They say, okay, anything older than like 8 years.
That's right.
We're no longer going to repair it, and then then that's when people will say, "Well, you make such a good product, it doesn't break down."
That's absolutely true. I have a personal thing with that. I have someone who wants to sell me this 12-year-old treadmill, but it's a professional, in a gym treadmill. This thing it will not quit. It'll probably be working, it'll be there when the cockroaches inherit the earth. And but the person who was going to sell it to me said the problem is I've been told that they do not this company will not manufacture parts for it anymore because they want everybody to move on to their other products. So that is exactly what they do. So she was saying, "I don't feel comfortable selling this to you, even though I know it's going to work. But what if it broke down? You can't repair it." Right.
Well, but the thing is, how much is she going to sell it to you for? I'll just pick it. Let's say my wife bought an elliptical machine, really, really nice elliptical machine at a garage sale for $45. It's like a $400 machine that this woman used for 2 years, and she was looking to replace the old elliptical machine. Well, we've already had it for a year and a half.
That's fine.
So, but if your friend's going to sell it to you for what is a really reasonable price, she doesn't want to use it. If you use it for a couple of years, you saved X amount of bucks. Then if you have to get a new one, fine, then you get a new one.
Okay.
But in
Well,
the
thanks for
meantime,
thanks for the advice.
you know,
All right.
So,
well,
okay.
I'm just saying. Okay. Thank you for your call. I'm just saying. When you come up with a word like obsolescence, which I believe I mentioned earlier, I'll tell you what's getting to be obsolete. We are. I mean, that's the moral of the story here. We're all becoming replaceable. I've been trying to think of the jobs that, as far as I comprehend the abilities of technology, that will be immune from this the juggernaut of job-eating robotics and automation. Like, what are the jobs that, like I keep thinking things like carpenters and, plumbing and electrical, that those things that you'll always need a person, won't you? But probably not, right? I'm just not looking far enough down the road. Maybe like my job, you would think, well, that can't. I mean, there's a human element here that is what makes it, the whole format, work. But everybody can't do a talk show. But anything, I mean, all of these jobs, when you think of what humans have done for years and forever, you can see easily how technology can replace those jobs. And I'm not even so sure that struggling education systems have a clue how to prepare students, young children today, for the employment that they will have available to them when they're young adults. I mean, if you take a 3-year-old today and then imagine them 20 years later as a 23-year-old, well, good God, can you imagine what's going to happen in those 2 decades? And I don't know. I think things are moving so fast that all the institutions we have, including education, including law, including our government, we can't keep up anymore. And the one thing that's clear is what's going to get trampled is us. And I'm surprised that a bigger thing isn't being made out of this. Why isn't it? I mean, you got the poor McDonald's workers and others striking all over the country today. And I read in the Wall Street Journal that some guy in some trade group said, don't they realize that this is going to create the kind of incentive for these businesses to automate lots of these jobs? We don't need these jobs. You don't need a guy to take your order. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
I'm fine.
Great topic that you're talking about here. I'm just to let you know, one of the 2 conservative listeners you have, the other one is a fellow named John. But anyway, just to tell you what my perspective is.
Okay.
You are scaring me because I'm sitting here working and I'm thinking, my God, we are seeing every dystopian scenario that you can imagine from any movie we've seen through the 80s and 90s coming to life right before our eyes. I mean,
correct.
The displacement of the human being, the isolation of people through technology. Everyone's got their nose pressed into cell phones and they couldn't care less about who they walk into. Just things like that. Just such a little concern for,
the
blood
impact.
And love. And
yeah.
I mean, and here's what I think. And I hate to be a prophet. I tend to be an optimistic, but here's what I think. The United States and the West in general is in decline. Probably, now anything may happen, but probably the Far East will be the next superpower for the next maybe 2 centuries. But in the interim, just like there was between, say, colonial Europe and the dominance of the United States, in the interim, there's going to be an upheaval, a shifting of economies, a shifting of power, and there will be bloodshed until things stabilize once again. Maybe one of your listeners can have better insight and maybe disagree with me. Or
no, I don't. I mean, obviously, you can't have these huge transitions without that kind of fallout, simply because it's when you look at because human beings get trampled. Yeah.
They do. And when you're talking about military might and economic power, human rights don't matter. We've seen it in World War II. And I think we will see it again as the West, particularly the U.S. and Canada, decline, and the Chinese come up. And hopefully that won't be the case. But I think that in between long periods of prosperity is a correction, an upheaval of some sort. So,
what I can't figure out, though, is if human beings are becoming sort of obsolescent, then how does a human being rich country like China, how is that a positive for them?
Well, I think, though, that China's in a weird situation. They have a zillion people, so what they're doing is having those people come to a better lifestyle so they can only get better. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the United States has, I think...
Oh, we've topped out and are heading down.
I think we have too many people, because we have too many people who don't have higher education, and there are too fewer jobs for them to do, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean like a monotonous, laborious, well-paying factory job. Those just don't exist for all the people in the U.S. and like North America.
No, those are robots now.
Yeah, exactly.
But you'll disagree with me in that I think that the U.S. I think our biggest problem is the growing wealth disparity, because you can't have a functioning country when so many people are being cut out of something hopeful.
You know what, Lynn? I don't want to bring us off on a different tangent, but I'll leave you with this idea. The growing wealth disparity, my number one reason for that is freaking apathy in this country. Because if the middle class and the lower middle class do not vote,
I agree with you.
Nothing will ever change.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm sorry, but it's your camp. It's the liberals in this country who complain about everything, but they don't vote. Statistically, that is true. Conservatives, people in power, people with higher education, they vote. Am I right about this?
Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you something. I was talking about this yesterday. The rumblings from down under are starting up. The lowly are starting to, you can tell the sleeping giant is sort of waking up. So when you create these scary images, we could be facing a lot of social upheaval in this country.
But see, that's part of the problem why I'm listening to you and I'm getting scared, because I'm thinking, I don't want people to go rioting. I want them to use the democratic process.
Right, I do too. I do too.
And I don't know. It just and everyone's first instinct anymore is to chop off someone's head. You disagree with me? You're an idiot. You love Obama. You're an idiot. This and that. No, there's no more civility. I mean, it's like right or wrong immediately. No gradual change. Not using the democratic process to make social justice come about. And when you have throngs of people who are angry and underemployed and taken advantage of like we do, I'm just sitting back thinking, oh, my God, when are the riots going to start? And I mean that in an exaggerated sense, but I'll let you go. But thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
Great call. Thank you very much. We got to take a break. Good heavens. Be back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to the all-new BergBargains.com for great deals on holiday gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. Log on now for great deals from Sephora, Atria's, Fair Day, P.F. Chang's, and Kohl's. Supplies are limited. The all-new BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BergBargains.com.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering in. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay, well, oh, Lord. So, whatever. Anybody have ideas about like what these jobs are that are safe jobs? I mean, if you have a kid right now, what would you tell them to head into? I mean, if they're not smart, and going to work for Google. You know what I mean? You know, like I have to tell you, I didn't have a head that worked that way. I'm an idiot when it comes to that kind of thing. Where are jobs for people with more sort of creative sensibilities that don't have to do with numbers and science and things? Caller?
You know, I've been thinking, the problem we're going to be having is the population growth in this country is going to far exceed the job growth in this country.
Okay, I'm thinking the population growth is coming from, from the more beleaguered parts of the population, too.
Well, that's true, but I can foresee decades down the line that married couples will limit the number of children they will have because there won't be jobs for them.
Well, I think they already are. I mean, family planning came about because, people don't want to have a bunch of kids that they can't, in fact, support properly. And with the cost of college alone, why would anybody have more than half a kid? You can't.
Well, my question is, where will these kids work when they reach adulthood?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Especially the ones that aren't geniuses.
As this sounds, do you think we should put an end to immigration?
No, because immigration has forever been the lifeblood of this country. The hardest working people in this country have always been the immigrants. You don't ever want to lose those people, I don't think.
But they increase the population, and they just compete with everybody else for jobs.
I think this country is the great country it is for two reasons: because of our founding principles and because of our unique idea of being a place that ingathers others. I just think the diversity and the constant new blood is a positive, always more than a negative. You'll never budge me on that one. I'm sorry.
I know that. I know that.
Okay.
The thing that gets to me is, that people come to this country because they feel they can have a better life here.
And they're willing to work for it.
Well, they're willing to work for it. But if we create a country where that is possible, there's not something special in the air we breathe or the water we drink that makes us be able to do that. It's just the decisions and the actions that people have taken. And, why can't these countries do similar?
Which countries? Oh, I mean their own countries? Well,
no, the countries always people were migrating to the United States from. If they're migrating to the United States from the United States for a better life, why can't they work within their own country to achieve a better life?
Well,
there's nothing special about, like I said, there's nothing special about the water we drink or the air we breathe that makes us able to do this.
I know. I'll tell you something interesting that I saw recently. Do you know that increasingly, people, when they're looking for a better life, look around. They're not idiots. They're hearing that things aren't so hot in the United States right now for, low-wage workers. And for the first time in a long time, apparently, there is more of a migration from Mexico and some Central American countries to South American countries for work. They're not coming here as much as they used to because we don't look as good a bargain for them. There are growing economies in South America, so they're heading there. People will always go where there is an opportunity, right? Yes. They'll always go where there's opportunity. You might start seeing Americans, going for opportunity somewhere else.
Wouldn't that be ironic?
Well, yes, wouldn't it be? But, I mean, if in fact we create a truly global economy, which we clearly are doing, then why, then maybe people will go where the jobs are.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, bye. It's not like I've got any. I don't have a crystal ball. But our conservative caller who said that every dystopian view in every science fiction film he ever saw is we're watching it come true is true. It's absolutely true. And for people failing to acknowledge it, it's interesting to me. I know some people think that I'm a Chicken Little in this regard, but I swear I have never felt more sure of something in my life. Melanie writes, most people don't have large families. Most people don't have large families except the people who keep having children because of their faith. Generally, that's true. The only large families I know of, well, it's two things, I would say, Melanie. It is faith. So you still see real practicing Catholics and Muslims and Jews. You see the Orthodox Jews walking to the synagogue on Saturday down Murray Avenue, and they've got, 12 little ducklings in their wake. There's one a year. They just keep coming. They just keep coming. So, yes, those people are procreating. Other people, I think, impoverished people often procreate, which is maddening because they do not have access to contraception, perhaps, or information or education about family planning. This is where an organization like Planned Parenthood does incalculable great work through education. Incalculable. So, yeah, I do not know. So this other thing I came across about Google, and this is just separately, I don't know why I always think that these, technology guys would be sort of more progressive. Because I guess their product is progress, and so I think of progress and progressive, and so I'm thinking that they'd be, if they're so smart, well, of course they'd be progressive, Well, guess what? I'm naive. Do you know what Google's motto is? Don't be evil. Which I guess, kind of, is that really its motto? It says here it is. I'm reading it. This looks like, don't be evil. Well, for a corporation, that's not a bad one. Don't be evil. However, I'm reading something here that I think came from Bill Moyers. And I trust him as a reliable source of fact. You might come to a different conclusion than he does, but he lists organizations that have received substantial funding from Google. So Google, this rich behemoth that it is, does spend lots of money where it gives grants and funds to nonprofits and other groups. Do you want to hear some of these groups? It says here, by the way, that American corporations are not required to publicly disclose their funding of such groups, including political advocacy groups. And very few of them do so. So, when you buy a certain product, you don't know if the manufacturers of that product are quietly funding the Koch brothers and Alec and Heritage and all that stuff. It'd be nice to know that because you wouldn't want to necessarily spend your money with them. But Google has voluntarily, over the last few years, released some limited details about the grants it gives. And here is some of whom they have been giving substantial contributions to. And they don't define substantial. I'll let you figure it out. And while it says here that Google has a progressive image, it maybe should not when you look at the groups it is giving this substantial money to. You want to hear a list? The American Conservative Union, Americans for Tax Reform. These are all right-wing groups. The Cato Institute, the Federalist Society, Heritage Action, National Taxpayers Union, Texas Public Policy Foundation. These are a lot of anti-government groups. Americans for Tax Reform, that's Grover Norquist, for God's sake. So that's some disquieting information as far as I'm concerned. Google recently sponsored a huge fundraiser in Washington for the Federalist Society. And what that is that's where all those right-wing judges we don't like come out of. That's John Roberts and Alito and Scalia. In fact, Clarence Thomas was the guest of honor at this event that Google sponsored. Google belongs to ALEC, which has received some of its largest grants. And ALEC, as you know, is that group that comes up with legislation and then helps farm it out to legislatures all over the country. And it's things like, like ALEC was behind the Stand Your Ground law. ALEC is behind every right-wing law that there is. At least 50 corporations are known to have dropped their affiliation with ALEC because of I think the Stand Your Ground thing really created a lot of publicity, and people started backing away. Even Walmart backed away from it. Coke did. Pepsi did. But Google, along with Facebook and Yelp, the technological guys, has joined up since ALEC. All this stuff we don't know. Just telling you. For whatever. Caller, go ahead. Hello, caller.
Oh, hi, Lynn. How are you?
I'm fine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, it's funny that you just mentioned Yelp. I had occasion to turn on Charlie Rose, who I'm actually fed up with and can't tolerate any longer, a while back. And he was interviewing a young man, and he said that the guy was one of the PayPal Mafia. You know what they are?
The PayPal I know, but PayPal Mafia?
Well, the PayPal Mafia were these young tech guys who, what's his name? Elon Musk, the guy who's doing the space program and the Tesla.
Uh-huh.
He was a member of the PayPal Mafia. They were the young guys who made their fortunes from PayPal.
Okay.
There were maybe 15 or 18 of them, like that, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this young guy was on Charlie Rose, and Charlie Rose was going on and worshiping at his innovative prowess as someone on the cutting edge of technology and of capitalism and how great. And I'm thinking, man, what is this guy doing? He must be, he must have figured out a new power source, and he's going to save us all. And he did Yelp.
He did Yelp.
That's what Charlie Rose was so excited about. And this guy is like the shining example of one of the great tech moguls of our time. He designed a consumer review website
where anybody with a complaint can sound off. Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't,
that's what we did. I mean, I think we're really. I think Well, it's a matter of potential. You're only as good as the potential you have that you live up to. And I think where this country has failed, if this country was going in the proper direction, we would be at a point where all these technological things that we've done have made life extremely better for everybody, and we would be a much more moving towards utopian kind of society, where machines did nothing but aid us in making life better, but the human was first and foremost the most important thing. And we haven't done that, and the main reason we haven't done that is because of capitalism and because of corporate, the corporate state. Because it's about profit, it's not about the actual consumer. It's about the consumer's
no, of
money.
course not. Right.
So, yeah, and did you hear that though? They do NPR on weekends. They do TED Talks. And,
no.
I don't know if it was this past weekend or the weekend before, but there was a TED Talk on about a woman was talking about how all the jobs that are being created in China, making iPhones and things, are not as bad as we make them out to be, because these people are now getting the chance to live what was once called the American dream. They're moving out of the rural setting. They're getting a home. They're getting a family. They're getting vacation time. All these things that we once did, they are now doing. It's like you said earlier about we're kind of over the cusp on that, but they're just coming to it.
Right, and in fact, the consumer culture will exist, but not here as much as it will over. I mean, all those new consumers bubbling up in
exactly. But here's
Asia.
The problem: is that yes, that may be a great thing for them, but at some point they're going to be at the same status we're at
that we are at now. Of course.
And all the horrible things that happen in between to, sucking up natural resources and everything. So, and in my view, it's still a bad thing, because she was assuming that all of those things that she described as being wonderful, getting a house, raising a family, the middle class lifestyle, blah, 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 is inherently a great thing. And it's only as good as the end that it takes you to. If we had fulfilled our true destiny as a nation, we would have a hyper-educated society that was, in strictly my opinion, of course, but that was super educated and very well-rounded and very considerate. Like I said, it would be moving towards a utopia. But what have we done? We've done nothing but turned into huge consumers. We're just, we base our lives around shopping and things that
That's right. We cease to be. And I mean, in our lifetime, it happened where we were turned from citizens, where that was the role we played in this country, to be citizens, to instead
the other thing too
consumers.
is that the young kids have been indoctrinated
in the consumer culture,
into the textile.
Well,
so they don't even question it.
No, exactly. But and then the next generation, of course not. That's why it's so clearly this juggernaut.
Absolutely.
We're along for the ride. But I think it's wise to at least be aware of what ride you're on, Yeah,
absolutely. And, I think it's going to be great when I'm 90 years old, watching the young kids outside shooting down the Amazon drones that are dropping out packages just for the heck of it.
Okay. Bye. Something to look forward to. We'll take a... Didn't I take a final break?
No.
Oh, I was going to, and I was waylaid. Okay, final break.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Just in time for the holidays, Little's Shoes is your UGG headquarters. Little's has the largest selection of UGGs for men, women, and children to stay warm with shearling-lined boots, shoes, and slippers. Don't forget to get your hats, gloves, scarves, and more. Bring the entire family to view one of the largest in-store UGG shops in the U.S. All available at Little's Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store. Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill or littleshoes.com.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual holiday guide magazine is available now. Pick up one today for great holiday gift ideas from your favorite local merchants and restaurants. Plus George Takei, Diego Garcia, Out of the Furnace, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com. on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com and check out the new CP Haps app, available for download from the iPhone App Store and Google Play.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Yeah, I was looking out at this extremely gray day, and I look over at Jess, and she's smiling. Look at the beautiful grayness. Okay, Colette has written in, and I'm sure she speaks for many. Lynn, after the show, I have to slit my wrists. You guys are really bringing me down. She says, I have a tech job. I can't imagine what everybody else is feeling. If I make it, I hope tomorrow will be less of a Debbie Downer. Well, okay, Colette, here's the thing. Do I sound down? I'm not. I'm in sort of a good mood today. I am. I'm not being... I'm just... If... I feel like I'm being the kid in The Emperor Wears No Clothes. I mean, what? How is it a negative to, as I said just moments ago, to know what ride we're on? I hope to be proven wrong. I mean, the reach of my imagination, it might be, ridiculously limited. But it just seems sort of clear to me where we're heading. And I mean, why should one get depressed about something that one has no control over? Almost no control over. We can control through getting involved, ameliorating or palliative kinds of aspects of dealing with this transformation of our world, of our economy, of our role as workers, as humans. Who the hell knows? I don't know. I mean, you could be energized by it. You're choosing to be depressed by it. It is what it is. I mean, I'm going to channel my survivor mother here. Just deal with it. It is what it is. Why? How are we supposed to, not notice what's happening around us? Are we supposed to not be curious about where this is heading? I mean, the future's always, you can react in two ways. You can react with terror of the unknown, or you can react with curiosity. I think I'm feeling more curious, and also this sense of inevitability. I mean, we're here, things are happening, and I like to note them. And how are we going to deal with the sort of fallout, the problems that are created by this huge transformation, if we don't talk about it? Colette, that's all I'm asking. So I am not depressed today. I know there are shows when I'm talking about stuff and I'm like, oy, oy, oy. But you're not hearing that in my voice today. I don't think you are, because I don't feel depressed at all. I feel energized today. I'm just telling you what's happening. And here is, speaking of technology, a team of engineers at Microsoft Research have developed a high-tech bra.
What?
Isn't that nice? And you know what? It's a bra that's made for people like you and me, Jess. You know why? It is a bra that is intended to monitor women's stress levels and let them know when they're getting close to the kind of emotional stress that makes them overeat. You want one? Yeah, look at that. Here's the thing, though. It has, it's a bra. It exists. It's a bra that has sensors, I guess right over here, that track your heart rate, your respiration, your skin conductance, and your movement. And then it factors in all that stuff and figures out if you're getting dangerously close to the stress level in which you run for, you name it, potato chips, a gallon of ice cream. It can be anything as far as I'm concerned. But I am an emotional binge eater. But here's what I think about this stupid thing. Any woman wearing any kind of bra knows when she's at a stress level where she wants to eat. And she knows that that's the reaction she has. And she knows that it provides temporary relief. Otherwise, why do all of us do it? It does. Later on, there's the hangover where, "Oy, why did I do that? Oy, why did I do that?" But how does the knowledge that your bra tells you you're stressed? Why do you need a bra to tell you you're stressed? That's the part I don't get. Researchers hope it could be an innovative solution to stress-induced eating. They tried to make something for guys like this, but they only could, since guys don't wear bras, they put it in their underwear, the sensors, and they didn't work for you guys because apparently there's not a lot to sense down there. Not the right stuff. Smart bras. Oh, jeez. I guess that's for the you having trouble finding a good Christmas present for somebody who's got everything. A woman who's got everything. A smart bra. Mm-hmm. Smart bras probably won't be coming to a department store near you anytime soon, because Microsoft is still tinkering with it, figuring out how to get the battery life on their device to last longer than 4 hours. Well, I should think so. Okay, that was my only... See, there's a lighthearted technology topic there for you. So Martin Bashir, for those of you who are MSNBC junkies, he has resigned after saying something that was so gross. I happened to hear it live when he said it. And I thought, what the heck? It was over the top. However, it was no more over the top than a lot of things that are said by, you name them, on Fox, or Rush Limbaugh, or Sean Hannity, or any of those guys. Have they ever seen fit to resign over it? Only MSNBC, which is, the liberal station, do you have guys, leaving in disgrace for saying something. What he said was horribly crude, I thought, and created such a horrible image that you do know what he said, don't you? Do people know? All right, this had to do, he was on a tear, screaming about Sarah Palin, and what she had said about likening the Affordable Care Act to slavery or something, which, only Sarah could connect the dots there. But he said... Oh, no, she was comparing our national debt to slavery. Okay. And what Bashir said, that he suggested that Palin be subjected to the kind of discipline that slaves could be subjected to if she thought she was living under slavery. And he comes up with this. Listen to this. It's so in 1756, he talks about, this is a book about some slave owner. In 1756, he records that a slave named Darby, catched eating canes, had him well flogged and pickled, then made Hector, another slave, shit in his mouth. And Bashir went on to say, he said S-H-I-T, And then he went on to say, when Mrs. Palin invokes slavery, she doesn't just prove her rank ignorance. She confirms if anyone truly qualified for a dose of discipline from this slave master, she would be the outstanding candidate. So he resigned over that. And, of course, the comments are full of people. I'm sick of our guys being forced out over these kinds of things, while people like Rush, O'Reilly, and others never apologize, never anything, whatever. I thought it was in bad taste at the time I heard it. But for what it is, I have to tell you, MSNBC is wearing thin on me. Hello?
Hello, Lynn.
Yes.
On a happier note, considering Sarah Palin.
Yes.
My wife and I last month spent 2 weeks in southern Thailand.
Oh.
It's our third trip there. We love it there. We're at the hotel at the breakfast buffet, and there's a lot of Russians at this hotel. And this elderly woman pushes in front of my wife. My wife knows a little Russian, and she said something to her, kind of politely, but kind of like, where are you going? And this little grandmother looked at her, shocked because she spoke in Russian, and started jabbering in Russian to her. And my wife started trying to talk with her and stuff. The woman was so touched that somebody was speaking. The woman looked really lost. She took my wife's hand and put it on her breast, and she's talking to her. And she tells my wife she's from Kamchatka, near Vladivostok, okay, which is the part of Russia that's like near Japan. And my wife says, "Oh, Sarah Palin," and she puts her hand up like she's looking around. And the woman looks and gets this big grin on her face, and she does the same gesture. She puts her hand and she starts looking around. Yes, Sarah Palin, Sarah Palin. My wife said Sarah Palin's a joke across the continent.
So this woman knew of Sarah Palin and knew she was a joke.
Yes,
this
honest to God, she knew about Sarah Palin, could see Russia from the governor's mansion in Alaska.
In Alaska. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Impressive that your wife can speak any Russian. Jeez, I don't know anyone who can speak. Oh, yes, I do. But he was born there. That doesn't count. Wow. Well, guys, I'm sorry if I depressed some of you. I really am. But I found those Google stories interesting. And when I see something interesting, I think, I gotta pass it on. That's my job. Enjoy this lovely day. That's according to Jess. And I'll be back tomorrow and joined by our favorite, Chris Potter.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.